Let's now talk about one of the highlights of Saturn, which is the multiband processing. Now, I have to be honest, when I first heard about multiband distortion, I thought, why do we really need this? Because I just want to distort my signal. Do I really need to add distortion on every band separately? It's a lot more work, and is it really going to make much of a difference? So let me demonstrate how much of a difference it can make. So I'm going to bypass the plugin right now. We have a different sound here again. Just a bass loop. Alright, that sounds good. I have some settings change up here in the single band mode, so let's have a listen to it. Alright, so that sounds interesting. You can clearly hear the saturation or the distortion. Makes the sound a little bit muffled. But let's now check out what we can do with the multiband processing. So if I just click anywhere over here, I've now created a crossover point, and you can see here I can even adjust the crossover frequency. So now the signal is divided into two different frequency bands, but I can even add more. There you go. So now the signal is divided into three different bands. Let's have a quick listen to this. Now, isn't that drastically different? We still have the exact same settings for the saturation, but it just sounds cleaner. Let's go ahead and add more just for the heck of it. So now I have 4 different bands. And let's add another one here. And let's add a 5th one here. So we're still doing the same thing. We're adding distortion to each band independently, but the same amount. Now, what if I was to remove all these? Notice the difference there? It's not a good or bad thing, it's just a different sound. Maybe I want it to be fuzzy and kind of muffled. I could go with this. But if I want things to be a bit more transparent, why not just split the audio into different frequency bands and process them separately? Because even though we're talking about a bass here, we do have a pretty wide range of frequencies. And look at this. How many ranges do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've divided this entire bass sound into 6 different frequency bands, and I'm applying the exact same distortion. But of course I don't have to. I can select a particular band here, and I can say, let's go with some saturation, about gentle saturation here. Maybe increase the amount. Maybe on this band over here, we can try a different one. Tube maybe, warm tube. We can even solo a band and just hear that. Oh, looks like we have a lot of feedback. I'll tone things down. Now, that was interesting to note. We are working with this band, and the frequency that was being heard because the feedback was in the upper register, and that could totally happen. So you want to be careful with that. We can even mute a particular band, just to hear how it would sound like without that frequency range. I can select a bunch of bands like this and control a parameter for all of them together. And you can see it says multiple. Maybe I'll tone down the feedback here for all 3. We can also adjust the level. It's basically this knob here, but we have access to it over here. Alright, now let's talk about linear phase. So now if I turn on linear phase, those crossover band split that's going to happen is going to have a linear phase mode. So it's going to be cleaner, you're going to get less of that phase distortion. But keep in mind, this is also going to add some latency. Talking about band splits, we can also change the slope. So by default, you get a 24 dB per octave slope, but you can make that extremely steep at 48 dB per octave. And you can also make it very gentle at 6 dB per octave. So if you are going for something that steep at 48 decibels per octave, you want kind of a transparent result, maybe linear phase could be an option you're going for. But I would say, end of the day, we're kind of doing this creative processing. It's not like a mastering saturation effect. So why not just ignore that linear phase? You're not going to get any latency, and we can go wild with the crossover, introduce all kinds of phase distortion, and just change up the tonality of the sound. Let's hear everything bypassed. Pretty drastic change to our sound. So here is a perfect example of how saturation or distortion doesn't just have to be a color thing, but more of a character or creative process.